so that we progress in our goal toward moksha. Certainly, one of the basic practices in making progress toward moksha are following the basic principles, such as ahimsa, non-violence, truthfulness, a very good principle, purity. So I'm sure you talk some about these in your classes. And trying as we can to manifest them in our life is a very good way to make spiritual progress. Another way to make spiritual progress, or progress in our fourth goal of moksha, is to go to the temple once a week if we can. We're very fortunate here in Toronto. If you live in this general area, there's temples that aren't too far away. In the U.S., sometimes you live at one end of town, and to get to the temple you have to drive 3 hours. The town is so big. You live at one end of Houston, and the temple is at the other end of Houston. So just to drive 3 hours to the temple and 3 hours back. So hard to go, but the temple is half an hour away. It's easy to get there once a week. But going to the temple is a very important part of making spiritual progress, unfolding spiritually. Sometimes I get asked, well, what's the benefit of going to the temple? Well, why bother? Can't I worship God at home? Why do I have to go to the temple? It takes time. I'm more efficient if I just stay at home and worship God. Well, the temple is a more powerful place. It's not an ordinary place. And because of what the priests do, there's more spirituality present. So what does that spirituality do to us? Well, the spirituality cleanses the mind. That's a very simple way of looking at it. In Hinduism, bathing is very important. Purity is very important. We bathe the physical body regularly, right? We don't skip a couple of days and not bathe. We know it's important to bathe. And we wear clean clothes, which is another part of bathing, so that's called outer cleanliness. We naturally, as Hindus, feel that outer cleanliness is important. Why? Because the body accumulates dirt. The clothing we wear accumulates dirt from our environment. So we need to wash it to keep it clean. Well, the mind is the same way. The mind picks up dirt, picks up uncleanliness. How does it pick up uncleanliness? Well, we can have bad thoughts. That's a very simple way. Our thoughts aren't perfect. We get mad at someone. We have bad thoughts about them. That creates a certain uncleanliness in the mind. It creates a residue. Where with people that say nasty things at school, some of our peers, that impacts our mind. There's a statement in the Tirukural in English that says, as water takes on the nature of the soil through which it flows, so the mind takes on the nature of its companion. So, because you all have companions, you have friends, some of them are religious people, some aren't. The ones who aren't religious can put non-religious impressions in your mind. So you want to clean all that out on a regular basis, just like you wash the dirt off your body. You wash these negative or unreligious thoughts out of your mind by going to the temple and praying with sincerity. Not enough just to be in the temple. We have to pray with sincerity. We have to put our mind on the effort. So a good way of thinking about that is music. You all have your favorite kinds of music, right? If you listen to your favorite kinds of music, it uplifts you, makes you feel better, right? So what happens if you turn on the music, but you think about something else? Does it make you feel better? No, because your mind wasn't engaged. The music is there, but your mind wasn't engaged in listening to it. So it's the same way in the temple. Just because your body is there doesn't benefit you. You have to engage your mind. And that's one reason in Hinduism we make the deity look very beautiful. It engages our mind. We look at the deity, it's all decorated up with beautiful flowers and jewels. And you say, oh my goodness. You know, it just captures your attention, at least for a minute or so. And when it captures your attention like that, that's when you get the most energy or blessings from the deity, and when it purifies your mind the most, when the mind is engaged like that. Well, that's called darshan, or darshana. The sight of the deity is a religious experience itself. That's the idea. So, as part of our goal in moksha, making spiritual progress, spiritual unfoldment, we want to go to the temple once a week. Another important practice to make spiritual progress is satsanga, or fellowship, worshiping with others. So even though we go to the temple, we could go alone. You know, we're not necessarily with a big group. But when we worship together, sing together, a group such as this coming together strengthens one another. We all are thinking alike. We have friends who are interested in this religious path along with us. So it's very important, again, once a week, to gather with people of like mind, spiritual people of like mind. For those who are older, particularly important in the university. Unfortunately, the university, besides giving an education, can take away your religiousness. I know some very devout Hindus who went in one end, okay, came out the other end an atheist. Why? Well, they didn't have any satsanga. They had no religious fellowship on a regular basis in the university. No people to support their religious beliefs. So it's natural for us to take on the nature of our friends. So if all our friends are non-religious, eventually it can rub off on us, and we start to become more non-religious as well. So having religious friends at the university level and high school level is a very important part of maintaining our religiousness and making spiritual progress. For parents here, or those of you who are older, I'll tell a story. It'll make more sense to you than younger people, but it's a story, so it won't bore you too much. We had an unusual talk we gave in Singapore recently. A friend of a devotee there is a teacher in a business school, S.P. Jain School of Global Management, I think it's called. It has branches in Singapore and Mumbai, Dubai, and Sydney, because they want their students to have exposure to the Middle East as well as to Asia and Australia, Western. So I gave a talk, and then afterwards they said that some of the professors were there, a group of 4, and they said, well, very nice, but the problem we have is our students are so greedy. And they're so greedy they tend to be dishonest. What can we do? Didn't used to be that way. Well, it's something I hadn't really thought much about. And on the spot I gave an answer, which is, well, why would we be more greedy these days than we used to be? And the answer is there's more opportunity. You go back a couple of generations, Hindus didn't have opportunity. Most Hindus were in government jobs or agricultural jobs or simple shopkeeper jobs, and the opportunity to be a millionaire or a billionaire wasn't there. But in our global economy, that opportunity to come up with a great idea, put it on the internet, become a millionaire or a billionaire, challenges everyone, excites everyone, to the point of being greedy and sometimes dishonest. So, therefore, in terms of a Hindu perspective, what can we do? And growing up, and parents guiding children and older children, what can we do to reflect upon this? Well, we need to look at the lives of really noble, accomplished people, such as Bill Gates. Here's a person, Warren Buffett. Here are people that earn billions of dollars. And in Bill Gates' case, he founded a foundation, putting a huge amount of wealth to help the world in major ways. He's trying to solve serious global problems with his wealth, not simply indulging himself. Warren Buffett plans to give away his wealth. Lives in a very simple home, has a very simple car, doesn't even have a fancy house. So he's a billionaire. But they live in such exemplary ways. They're not just motivated to acquire money and spend it on themselves. So, therefore, what we can do in terms of teachers of groups such as this, in terms of parents, older kids, is we need to practice giving. Dana, where we need to practice giving. What does that mean? Well, a simple way to give is to share. If you get something, before you use it on yourself, you give part of it away. What would that mean? You get a box of cookies for your birthday. First thing you do, you share with everybody else in the room, and then you take your cookie. You're disciplining yourself. When you get something, you want to share it with others first. You receive some money for your birthday. What's a good thing to do? Give some to the temple. If you get $10, give $1 to the temple or to this religious group, any Hindu cause, so that when you receive money, you thank God for having the good karma to receive money and not be without it. And how do you thank? By giving back. And it's very helpful to give back before you spend any of it on yourselves. There's an interesting story I know in that way. It has to do with the Tamil word mahimai. Anybody know the word mahimai? Mahimai means share, a portion. Mahimai. So there's a story about a salt trader at Palani Hills Temple. Kumarappan, right? Remember his name? His name was the first salt trader, Kumarappan, at Palani Hills Temple. I forget the date. I think it was around 1200 is the date. But he came from another area, so Chettiyar, came and set up a shop there to sell salt at Palani Hills Temple, famous Murugan temple. And he would give 1/8 of his income to the temple. So every time, every month, set aside and give 1/8 of the income to the temple, and it would help support the priest, and the priest would cook prasadam for others, and in that way his business flourished. And he was so diligent at it, I understand it's written up in the temple records. That's one reason I know about Kumarappan. The temple has records of donations, records of endowments that go back centuries and centuries. And so he was so consistent in his practice that he was recognized by the temple. Oh, that's a wonderful and a traditional practice when you're older, and particularly if you're in business, is you can give a certain portion of your income to the Hindu organizations that you wish to support. It doesn't have to be all to one organization. In that way, you're giving back to God and thanking God for the good punyam, the good karma